Rack City, bitch. 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 10, 10, 10, 20s and the 50s, bitch. Rack City, bitch. Rack City, bitch.
What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Today I want to show you guys a scrap deck that I've been working on. I call it Scrap City, bitch. Scrap City, bitch. I thought of the name myself. I thought it was pretty witty, bitch. So, anyways, this deck operates more like a scrap stun deck and less like, you know, traditional scraps where the bulk of your deck was just based around making Scrap Dragon as quick as possible and using his big behemoth ass to just, you know, go foo foo foo, bang bang bang, you know, mess up your opponent's plays. But the format has evolved. Scrap Dragon isn't as powerful as it was before. Like, you know, you've got Tour Guide, Acid Golem that can run them over. Insectors don't really care if your Scrap Dragon gets blown up. They'll blow up whatever you summon after that from Scrap Dragon. So this card isn't as good as it was, but it's still pretty damn good in the right setup. So first I'll talk about my deck list and then I'll go over it because, yeah, it's a pretty interesting deck. I think I like it anyway. 3 copies of Scrap Beast and 3 copies of Scrap Chimera. These are the only ones I run. Goblin really isn't that great anymore. I think it's just not as good as a card as it was before. 3 copies of King Tiger Wanghu. 2 copies of Reborn Tengu. My goodness, I wish this was at 3. This would help this deck out so much more. 3 copies of Thunder King Raioh. Again, just helps with the whole stun aspect. 2 copies of Dp-Ygo. 3 copies of Scrap Storm. Scrap Storm is a really good card in a format with 3 Torrentials. Seriously, when 3 Torrentials, this is a really good card. 2 copies of Scrapyard. 3 copies of Duality. The only summoning, special summoning you're gonna do is Reborn and Scrap Chimera. So you know why not? 1 copy of Avarice, Book of Moon, Dark Hole. That's it for the traps or these spells. For the traps, 3 copies of Horn of the Phantom Beast. 3 copies of Fiendish Chain. 2 Starlight Road, the Solemn Brigade, and Mirror Force. I would maybe consider throwing in Evac as my 41st card. I feel like 41 is my magic number. Everybody has a magic number, and you know I love Evac as a card, so I would probably consider throwing in Evac in here. Okay, so to start off, we have our 6 scraps. You basically know what they do. You know, Scrap Beast is a tuner. You know, you tune them with Wanghu or especially Tengu, Thunder King, whatever, make your Scrap Dragon, you know, that makes those plays. Scrap Chimera is your 1 card Scrap Dragon. You just need to get Beast into the graveyard. King Tiger Wanghu is a very, 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 very good card this format. Alright, let's see. This guy smashes Insectors because they can't use Dragonfly, they can't summon Hornet, they can't, I mean, it breaks up a lot of their plays, a lot of their big power plays. It is just absolute death to windups. I think everything in the entire deck outside of windup Shark like can't be summoned while this dude is face up. It steals priority from Rabbit, so if you get it turn 1 against Rabbit, well, they can't go Rabbit, they can't use Tour Guide. I mean, they have difficult time dealing with this card, you know what I mean? Especially when you have this backed up with Horn of the Phantom Beast, it's just like, ooh, man. 2 Reborn Tengu. I still feel like 2 Tengu is good just because we run Horn of the Phantom Beast and because Torrential is at 2. So, I mean, it's still, even though it's not at 3 where it's not ridiculous, like you can still summon it turn 1, set like a Horn of the Phantom Beast or, you know, a Solemn Warning, and you're still in good position. You know, you're still, you know, your opponent can't Dark Hole you. Even if they attack over it, you know, you still get another one. Like, it still creates field presence. Thunder King Raioh isn't as good in previous formats, but for a stun deck, it's pretty good. It locks off those turn 1 Stratos, turn 1 Rhoda plays, turn 1 Rabbit plays. Like, it can still turn 1 fuck up windups. I mean, outside of the Insector match, turn 1 going first, Thunder King is still great. It's just, it's not as good as it was before. And then Dp-Ygo. I thought about a Fett Veiler. I thought about trying to manipulate darts into this deck so that I could fit BLS. I ultimately decided on 2 copies of Dp-Ygo because, alright, check it. I feel like if we've got 3 copies of Wanghu and we've got 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, we should pretty much have effects covered where all the little monsters that turn into big monsters will get fucked up by Wanghu, or you can use Fiendish Chain on them. I feel like Dp-Ygo covers all of that middle ground that the other two cards don't cover, like Monster Reborn, possibly like if your opponent uses something like Miracle Fusion but they don't have enough targets, you can Crow one of them, make their Miracle Fusion fizzle. It can stop Hero Blast. It won't negate the destruction of Hero Blast, but it can stop them from getting a Neos back, stops Positive Avarice. So, you know, this card does still cover a decent amount of ground right now. I mean, I wish that like one of the scraps was dark, because then we could fit BLS, but I'm not going to add more darts to the deck just to be adding them so that we can get BLS. Again, I said Scrapstorm is really good in this format because of Torrential. You go summon Scrap Beast, your opponent like Torrentials, you change Scrapstorm, you go +1. We need cards to be able to get to our Scrapstorm targets and our Scrap targets, so obviously we run a couple of Scrap Yards. Duality is just good in here because, I mean, we're not going to be special summoning pretty much at all except for Monster Born and Chimera. You want to get Chimera plays, but you also want to be digging for your cards. Avarice is good in here because this deck has a tendency to run through monsters quick. If you do get hit with a Torrential and you don't have Scrapstorm, you don't have Starlight Road, then you know you need a way to be able to recover. If you Scrapstorm, you've got Crow, you've got ways to get your monsters in the graveyard fairly quickly, especially with like Reborn Tengu, even though it's not at 3. Horn of the Phantom Beast is the whole reason why this deck exists right now. I wouldn't play right now. I would probably, if I'm going to run a Scrap Stun version, Horn of the Phantom Beast is probably the best card in the deck. It makes the whole thing viable. We've got 11 targets. All of them are very good. They all get bigger than the Rabbit cards, except for Scrap Beast. He goes to 24. I mean, and just 2500 King Tiger Wanghu is just fucking hard to deal with. Again, if you go Tengu first turn, your opponent attacks. You know, you go Horn, you still go +1. If they Dark Hole, you get another Tengu. It's like it's all gravy, you know. It doesn't really matter. So I think Horn of the Phantom Beast makes this deck, and because it scraps, Fiendish Chain is good. Fiendish Chain plus King Tiger covers so much ground. It covers big monsters, stuff like Stratos, things that are too big, Centipede, and then everything else. You know, you just let King Tiger just say fuck you to all the little monsters. And I like Starlight Road in here, a double of, because you're gonna have times where your Fiendish Chains are still on the field. And that's good because you can use them later for Scrap Dragon. But if your opponent heavies you and all you have is like Fiendish Chain and Starlight, well, guess what? Fiendish Chain stayed on the field. Bam. It makes your Starlight Road active. You know, you've got Dark Hole, Torrential Tributes at 2. So there's going to be so many times where you go Chimera, you get that Scrap Beast, and your opponent's like Torrential, and you're just like, nope, Starlight Road. So Starlight Road is very live. The last cards are basically just, you know, staples, the Solemn Brigade, Mirror Force, and whatnot. Here's a card that I actually thought about, and I wish he had 25 more attack, because I would probably take out the Tengus and add like a playset of these in. That's Wind Up Rabbit. Not only can you use Horn of the Phantom Beast on him to make him go to 2200, which is obviously a good play, but he dodges those Torrentials, he dodges those Dark Holes and stuff like that. The only problem is it conflicts so hard with King Tiger Wanghu, where this guy would get priority stolen from him and you wouldn't be able to summon it and instantly remove it. King Tiger would kill it. But here's another good thing though, and I'm pretty sure that this works. I don't know why it wouldn't. Let's say you have Scrap Dragon on the field. Your opponent goes set Snowman Eater or whatever. You go summon Wind Up Rabbit, activate Scrap Dragon's effect. You then chain Wind Up Rabbit to remove itself. Your opponent's Snowman Eater gets blown up. Your Rabbit comes back next turn. So Rabbit is kind of a cute idea in this deck, and it's pretty cool. Maybe, you know what? Actually, it might be a one-of. I just thought about that. This might be a one-of card to add in this deck, just to give you more utility with Horn of the Phantom Beast. It gives you a little bit of more anti-meta power to dodge stuff like Torrential and Mirror Force. Although, actually, there may be a time where you have to leave him on the field when your opponent goes Torrential so that your Starlight Road can activate. But yeah, I think it might be a good one-of card in here because you don't want it to be conflicting too much with King Tiger, because King Tiger is a boss. So let me know what you guys think of the deck. Again, this is just like a first rough draft, you know. I think maybe later in the format I might play this. I think Scrap Dragon's still fucking expensive, man. When are they gonna reprint this fucking card? It's seriously, when they reprint this card, I'll play this deck, but I'm not paying $90 for a fucking set of Scrap Dragons right now. So thank you guys, click on the ad, and I'm out.